Testing. All right. Well, good afternoon. Thank you all so much for attending. I officially kick off our City Council workshop and public hearing for Thursday, August the 6th. It's nice to have a crowd here. We hope you got our invitation and postcard, and we appreciate you coming to learn. And this is an interesting opportunity presented to us by the state legislators, and so our staff has put together an option for voters. And so this meeting tonight, there's no vote being taken. This is for information purposes, and so you'll hear a great presentation from our city administrator, Shannon Herman, and staff. And then council will ask questions to staff, and then you have an opportunity from a public hearing standpoint to ask questions for us as well. So this is just a great opportunity. We're learning, and we want to make the best option for our residents. And so again, we appreciate you all being here. So first up on our agenda, I also like to mention, I don't think we're going to have a problem with this. It looks like a great group of people, but we have a civility pledge that we take as council members. And so we basically pledge just to be nice and respectful of each other. And so I would appreciate the same from all of you when you're speaking to council for tonight. Again, this is ordinance for Travelers Rest homeowners tax relief and critical project sales tax referendum. And so I'll turn it over to our city administrator, Shannon Herman.
Thank you, Mayor Amidon and members of City Council. Tonight we are here to go in depth on a proposal that could lower property taxes for the Travelers Rest homeowners while funding the improvements of our growing community needs. At this time, we have had a first reading and some opportunity to get into further study on the individual projects and the legislative opportunity in front of us. This presentation is intended to be interactive with council and to ensure at the end of it we have explored, assessed, answered, and prepared ourselves to make a final edit before second reading for you. One clarification, to make the beginning, or from the beginning, I'd like to make it clear our definition of a visitor. This term has varied meanings depending on what agency or business you're looking at, but for the purpose of tonight's presentation, we will lovingly refer to any non-resident as a visitor, and that is for estimation purposes. So to begin, South Carolina's new Municipal Tax Relief Act allows us to adopt a temporary 1% local sales tax, but only with voter approval at the November 3rd referendum. Because Travelers Rest is a regional destination, we estimate roughly 61% of the revenue would come from visitors, not residents. Over 8 years, we anticipate that the tax will raise about $19.8 million. By law, at least 20%, nearly $4 million, goes directly to the homeowner property tax relief, with the average homeowner seeing a rebate. Well, we'll go through the rebate numbers here in a minute. The remaining of the $15.8 million goes to fund roads, sidewalks, parks, stormwater, parking, and other opportunities. This creates no new debt, and we have not selected projects with significant operating costs. The result is we expect visitors to help pay for some infrastructure costs that they use, and the homeowners will get a property tax relief, and Travelers Rest will have an opportunity to invest in our future. So basically, backing up here, this is a new tool granted by the General Assembly. It came out in May of this year. Only cities and counties which do not have the capital tax are eligible to participate. So this is Greenville County, Oconee County, and Beaufort County at this time. We reside in Greenville County. This is a temporary sales tax. If approved by the voters, it is not allowed to exceed 8 years. It would run from May of 27 to April of 2035. The the homeowner tax relief and funds for the community improvements come from the revenues generated off this tax. 20%, a minimum of 20%, and that's what we're proposing to you tonight, would go to the property tax relief, and the remaining 80% by law is to go for core government services. These are to protect the public safety, support economic vitality, and maintain our critical infrastructure. This has to be approved by the citizens at a referendum at the general election on November 3rd. Additionally, the law requires that we have a project list published before the referendum. This has to be completed before this is sent to the voters registration and elections boards. And we have to produce an annual audit. So there is transparency and accountability provided for in the law. Executive summary, about $3.9 million we estimate to raise over 8 years to go towards homeowner property tax relief. About $15.8 million will go to the critical projects over the 8 years. Visitors will contribute to the tax burden for critical projects by shopping and participating in our economy here in city limits. This allows the city to build critical infrastructure projects while providing tax relief to the homeowners. Please note, all calculations in this presentation are estimated values based on past year's performance and the current county property tax parcel data. They are subject to change with economic conditions. Let's begin with the ballot question. This is what voters would see on the ballot in the November 3rd election. This question is very specifically designed by the state law. So while it sounds legal here, it is, and we have to use these words. So the question will begin, must a 1% sales and use tax be levied in the city of Travelers Rest for no more than 8 years for the purpose of allowing a credit against certain municipal ad valorem tax liability for owner-occupied residential property located within the city limits and for the purpose of raising the amounts specified below for the following purposes. If this passes, the city must remain within these spending limits for each of these categories. And then we have a total, and then there's a yes or no. To be clear on some of the legal jargon in here, municipal ad valorem tax is your property tax paid within the city limits. Owner-occupied residential property is a single-family home occupied by the owner in the 4% tax bracket, and I will go through that with you. What is exempt? Okay, this is easier to say than what is included, but essentially most unprepared foods that you buy at the grocery store, anything that's SNAP eligible is exempt. Prescription medications, gasoline at the pump, your rent, and most of your utilities. Another way to go through this is what is the state law here? The proposed South Carolina municipal tax relief sales and use tax is not a separate tax on different categories of transactions. It is an additional 1% sales and use tax that is imposed on the same sales and uses that are already subject to the South Carolina 6% state sales and use tax, unless specifically exempted by the law. The tax is administered by the Department of Revenue in the same manner as all the other local option sales taxes, and the additional 1% would apply to virtually all retail sales and uses that are already subject to the South Carolina sales tax. All right, so exempt unprepared food, basically groceries, prescription medications, gasoline at the pump, rent, and most of the utilities. How it works. Let's say you make a $100 taxable purchase. Let's say you've gone out to eat at a restaurant. Your bill is $100. $1, which is 1% sales tax, comes into this funding account. 20 cents of that dollar is to be retained for homeowner property tax relief, and 80 cents is to go to the community project improvement projects. Homeowner tax relief. This is where it can get a little confusing, so I want to make sure everyone understands this clearly. Household impact, or your household impact will depend on your taxable home value, not your fair market value, not what you believe you'll sell your house for, your taxable home value. And I will go through some tax bills so that we can see this on the bill. And how much you spend in city limits on your eligible discretionary spending. So there's no great way to estimate what the average person's experience is going to be. However, we're going to take a stab at some illustrative cases here. All right, per the county GIS and tax map data, about $394 million is what our city taxable property values are at. And then we go through our SCDOR performance of tax of sales tax, and we find that 20%, if we had a 1% increase to that, 20% of those revenues would be about $438,257. All right. Then we go through and we apply a ratio here to estimate the sales relief, or sorry, excuse me, the tax credit that would go back to each home by multiplying the home's taxable value by this rate of 0.001112. All right, so for every $1 of taxable home value, multiply by this rate. And we've created a chart here to kind of give some people some estimations. If you had a $150,000 taxable value home, you could anticipate a credit of about $166. There's multiple ways to try to try to estimate if your average or what our average impact was going to be. I'll let you know that the average home value in Travelers Rest is about $324,500. The anticipated credit on that home value would be $360. However, the average taxable home value, so this is what we'll actually see on the taxables, is the $258,431. So we anticipate that the average homeowner rebate based on our average taxable value in the city limits is going to be about $287. And people can work out, it's a sliding scale multiplied by this ratio here. You can kind of work out what your taxable value is from your tax bill and understand your credit. Sliding to the far right of this chart here, we begin to illustrate how much money you would need to spend in discretionary taxable spending inside of city limits to equal your rebate or your tax credit. So if we're going with the average taxable home value and your credit is $287, you have to spend about $28,700 in city limits on discretionary spending to equal that rebate, that credit. Any questions here? Let's look at a sample tax bill here so that, kind of everyone understands. And what we've done, we've just pulled 2 homes for selection here. We've blinked out any personally identifying, although this is all on the web. But I'd like you to note here, this is a 4%. This is your tax ratio. This tells you if you're residential and considered in the bracket eligible for the homeowner rebate here. So you need to see this 4% here. Then you see here, and this is the critical number, your taxable market value. So this is a home on Hurdy Drive in our new Pinestone community, and the taxable value is $616,980. So we apply the tax homer credit ratio, and you come with a credit of about $686. Please note, we went to the GIS and we see that the sales price was $650,000, the fair market value is $616,000, and because it was probably just purchased, it's a $616,000 taxable market. Your Zestimate is higher than that. So when you're calculating this, please note that your taxable value may very well differ from your actual value of your home, or how you may calculate your value of your home. Another thing to note is that the calculation for the credit is done before the calculation for any homestead exemptions. So this bill here has a homestead exemption, and you'll see that credit noted here and noted down here, less credits when you do the actual allocations. All right, so these are just some important things that you may want to pay attention to on your tax bill if you're trying to work out how this would benefit you as a homeowner. Here's another bill. This is a home on Walnut Lane. Presumably this home was purchased a while back. Again, every 5 years we have reassessment, but your taxable value is capped. It can only go up so much. So a homeowner who's lived in a home for a longer period of time is going to have a lower taxable value than the actual fair market value. So on this home, you see the fair market value is actually $225,000, pretty close to the Zestimate value, but the taxable value is only $75,000. So this homeowner tax credit is going to be $84 because that equation is worked off of your taxable market value. Any questions here? All right, so as we go through this and we go through the South Carolina Department of Revenue's actual collections for the city limits of Travelers Rest, and we apply a 1% increase to that, we begin to forecast out the revenues that we project. Over 8 years, we estimate we will collect about $19.8 million. This is with a 3.5% annual growth projection. That is the annual growth projection that is provided to us, recommended to us by the South Carolina Department of Revenue. In actuality, we've seen a 4.6% growth rate over the past 5 years. However, I want to note in there, last year we had a 1% decline. The year before that, it was a plus 11%. The year before that, it was a plus 6%. So there's a little bit of variability. This is very expected. We think that 3.5% is a very conservative estimate, which is what you would want to do in a situation like this. So just being very fair and transparent about the numbers here. We believe that with these collections of the $19.8 million, we would have a pot total over the 8 years of about $3.9 million that goes to homeowner rebate credit and $15.8 million to capital projects. It's important to note that Travelers Rest is a regional market economy. We have a lot of visitors. Again, our visitors are lovingly referred to as anybody who's a non-resident but comes to town to spend money. This could be overnight or it could be, daytime visitors. And we've done quite a bit of research in two different categories. One, number of trips that we see coming in to individual stores in Travelers Rest. So we have customer orientation data that's accessible to us. And then we've also gotten with Visit Greenville, which actually has market studies on the dollars spent by overnight visitors. And so you kind of take these two components together. While we cannot estimate the dollars spent by a customer orientation coming in, we can estimate that when they come in, they spend money. So a conservative estimate is about $61 of every $100 in taxable retail sales is expected to come from those who live outside the city. This is a chart that shows us who's coming into the city on a regular basis. The bottom navy blue line is our inbound commuters. Those are the people who come in daily for work, and you'll see it kind of dips down regularly. Those are the weekends. The residence line is the light blue line, slightly above that. If I can get my cursor up here, slightly above that. So this is our residents. And then this is our out of region visitors on a regular basis. These two anomalies here, these are ice storms, snowstorms, so we didn't see a lot of traffic that time. But so we can kind of see how many people are coming to spend time with us and spend money in our city. When they come in, they use our streets and they have access to all of our public safety personnel. So they're very much a part of our economy and our community while they're here. Again, about 61% of the 6.78 million visits a year come from outside of our zip code 29690. Now, we do know that 29690 encompasses much more than just the city of Travelers Rest, but it's a good way we can measure out of area visits, and it gives us an idea of how many people are coming from outside. We surveyed 23 stores within the Travelers Rest city limits. Here are a few that you will all recognize, and it comes out to 61% visitor orientation outside of that 29690. We also know that there's a small portion of the city that's not in the 29690, but we believe they more than balance out. So again, these are just projections. These aren't absolute numbers, but we feel like they're very conservative projections to say that about 61% of the monies collected should come from out of area visitors. At this time, and if there's any questions for me on the legislation or on the financials, I'd love to take those. And then I'd like to have Jay come up and go through with us the projects, how we created the project list, and how our citizens can utilize a new map we've created to go through them individually.
Thank you, Shannon. Before we have any questions, just to remind council, if you'll please lean into your microphone. I know we have a good audience, but we'll have this on YouTube as well. So open up to questions from council for Shannon.
My first question might be a little two-part. So these percentages, for example, 20% is returned to the homeowners in that tax rebate. It's a percentage, not a fixed dollar.
That's correct.
So kind of what happens if we bring in more than we projected or less than we projected in that chart that you've put in? What happens with that money? Where might it go? If you could explain that a little bit more, that'd be great.
Fantastic question. Okay, so in this slide, the green number, $438,000, that's 20% of the projected receipt of revenue for 1 year. So we divide that out by our total property tax value, and we come up with this estimated rebate value that then multiplies by your taxable value of your home. So if we brought in more, you're going to receive more revenue back or credit back. If we bring in less, you'll receive less credit back.
Okay.
And that's done on an annual basis.
Anything else? I'm sorry.
Oh, the one other question I have is with the projects, there were set dollar amounts to the actual infrastructure projects. Do those stay regardless of how that income fluctuates that's coming in more or less, or will those change as well?
Also, very good question. So by law, we are restricted to not go over these amounts that are on the ballot question in each of these categories. There is opportunity to participate with grants and things of that nature to reduce the actual cost to the city for the production of these and to save money and have money left over in the account, or cover any slower economy or something of that nature. But we cannot go over these amounts in these categories.
So if I could, so for example, for the drainage, the 1.25 million, say we wanted to spend $50,000 more for X, Y, and Z, then we as a city would have to come up with that. But the cap for this particular, is that the 1.25?
That is correct. For this pot of money, yes.
Great. Thanks. Sorry, Cheryl. Go ahead.
So the state gave the caps?
No, ma'am. And these numbers could change on the ballot question based
Okay.
on your final reading. So you could make amendments at second reading that would impact these numbers. These numbers are right now the placeholders for the current tiered list that we've provided you. And it includes all of the projects, Tier 1 and Tier 2. So these numbers can change up until you send this ballot question to the Voters Registration Commission, Election Commission.
And this is what Jay's going to show us, is exactly what those projects are, what the dollar figures are for each of those things, and how that fits into all of this, correct?
Yes, sir.
So this is like our accountability measure with the voters. We said we were going to spend it on this, they vote yes for it, and then we have to prove that over the years. Okay.
That is correct.
I have a question about the ballot. So on there, will it be like referendum 1 versus referendum 2? I'm just concerned, I want to make sure people are very clear which one is for Travelers Rest. So is that an option as well? Or you can't put referendum 1, or can you put a title on the ballot question just to make
I'm
it
going
very
to lean
clear?
to Attorney Childs to answer that question.
I do understand it's just for the city, the people in the city, but if there's multiple referendum questions, like if it's going to be referendum 1 and listed referendum 2, so that when we're talking to constituents, we can say, we really want you to focus on referendum 2, and we want to explain referendum 2, like an easy way that we can point this out.
Robbie, would it also be fair to say that the ballot question, as it lists right here, says that this is right here in the first sentence for the city of Travelers Rest? If the county or anybody else were to also make a ballot question, it's going to say exactly who that entity is going to be for. If it's the county, if it's Malden, whoever it is, which wouldn't happen. The only other thing that could happen is there could be a county ballot question also, but that would specify county.
Okay. Is it possible that we could say, in the city of Travelers Rest, comma, must be a 1% sales tax? Is that a possible change? Can Travelers Rest be near the beginning of the referendum?
This is more or less the language that the statute requires.
So we cannot change and put, in the city of Travelers Rest, comma, must a 1% sales tax? That,
Correct. The
Okay.
statute basically has the language that we have to use.
okay, thank you.
And just to summarize, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention and asked Robbie to move towards the microphone, but for YouTube, so it was basically like 1 or 2 on the ballot, and so that will be up to the Elections Commission, but we will know ahead of time so we could share that with voters.
Okay, thank you.
Shannon, you showed us what it would look like on our taxes. What would it look like on a receipt if we were to purchase something?
I believe it would just show as your sales tax, and it would be a 7% instead of a 6%.
And it is a rebate, so property owners must pay their taxes and then they will get this rebate back. How and when does that occur?
I believe it's a credit, and it will show on your tax bill as a credit. So it'll be less, so down here, where it says total taxes and fees, and you see less credits, the homeowner would see the credit shown here.
Would that be on the, I think, are you asking like, will that be on the 2028 property tax?
Should,
So like,
it will be
It'll go
kind of the year
2020
behind once it's collected, yes.
So it's May 2027 through April 2028 is the first year. So will it be on the 2028, when the tax bill comes out in the fall of 2028, or will it be 2029?
Councilmember Lane, that's a great question because it's gonna have to line up with the timing of when the when the tax bills go out.
They go out,
And if
think,
I
in
remember right,
October.
I believe it was September, but I believe they're generated in September, so
Right.
it'll have to be what we've collected up to that point. And then, of course, we have fiscal years to roll in there too. So there's a lot of different rolling components at one time.
So if someone were to ask us when, as a homeowner, you see this credit, what would be the correct way for everyone to understand that?
You would see the credit for the prior year's collections, so the divided out ratioed per all the eligible properties on your tax bill. The following, well, the tax bill that comes out past the receipt of those funds, 1 year past the receipt of the funds. I don't know those dates, but that would be a good question for me to ask.
Okay, yeah. So technically what you're saying is the full year wouldn't be until 2029 as a taxpayer
Correct.
that you
So
see that.
since we're starting in May, you're going to have a very short 2027 collection, and there may be a very small credit on the tax bill that goes out that year, prior for the prior collection. Whereas 2028, we'd have a full collection, and that next tax bill would show a much better credit back.
Okay.
It sounds like we're going to see something in 2028.
Partial.
That's when you'll see your majority of
Okay,
it.
great. So I think that's the answer for residents. 2028 is when we should see the credit.
You may have a month or two of collections. I don't know this, and it's part of the thing that we had still, with it being a new tool, we have to
Yes.
kind of iron out the timelines
Okay.
of when all these things come in. But if you're collecting in May, and
May
we-
2027 through December 2027 would be 2028.
correct, so you may get like a May, June collection, and then it's, DOR remits on a quarterly basis. When we get our notice of how much we've received, we could submit that to the county, and then that small bit could be included as a
you're
credit, but
saying-
it would be a very small credit in that.
In 2027, then you say we may have a small credit in 2027.
Correct. There's a possibility for that, but it would be a very small credit. So you should look for your first real year of demonstration in 2028.
That's a great follow-up for us, just to have a loose schedule. And again, for residents that are here, this is brand new. As Shannon mentioned, we learned about this in May. So we'll be working out the kinks as we go from a schedule standpoint, but it's good to have an idea.
And actually, I wanted Shannon, if you take just a moment and help us explain, because it did just happen in May, that we're bringing all this to you, and it seems like it's in real rush fashion. And in a case, it kind of is, but it's because our legislature in Columbia set it up this way. Would you give us a little bit of an overview of why we are doing it in the manner that we are, please?
Councilmember Baumgartner, this is legislation that went through this past state session and was signed by the governor in May. The legislation dictates that only cities that residing in counties which do not have a current 1% sales tax are eligible to participate. If the county of Greenville, in which we reside, were to pass a 1% sales tax on this ballot, this November ballot, the city would no longer be eligible to pursue this opportunity. If the county of Greenville does not pursue it or does not pass it, then in the next even year election on a general ballot, the city would be able to pursue it again. But since the county has passed a question for the referendum, this is really the only ballot that the city currently has a chance to put this into place. If it fails, then you have 2 more years, and the city could try again. If it succeeds, then the city would not be eligible, if that makes sense.
So also, along those lines, so that everybody understands, and I just want this to be revealed, and that is some of what we're talking about. The county does have the option of placing a question on the ballot also, okay? And remember, we're sitting up here talking about this. This is just a discussion within ourselves. You all, the voters, are going to have the option to say a yes or no to this. All we have done is said that we're going to place it on the ballot so you voters can decide whether you want this to occur within the city of Travelers Rest. Now, the county can do exactly the same thing and place an additional tax on top of what we are talking about, but it's only for the county. And what I want you to realize is at this time, one, they haven't made any decision whether they are or not going to do that. But the second is that if they do, we don't know if any projects that they may propose have anything to do with Travelers Rest, because it is the entire county that we're talking about. What we are showing to you all in this presentation and what you're seeing entirely tonight is just about Travelers Rest. It is just about the citizens of Travelers Rest and what we want to offer that you all have actually told us. Jay's going to come up and show you some projects that we have that we've been working on, that through us talking in groups as well as the
Master planning and
the
survey.
master plans, you all, the public, have told us what you would like to see. We're starting now to put some figures with that to say, okay, if that's what we would like, here is a way in this tax that we can actually help bring some of that to fruition. Am I correct in that?
Yes, sir. One thing I would add to that as well is that in order to get on a November ballot, we have to have a question fully submitted to the Elections Commission by August 17th. So that is an additional bit of the pressure from the middle of May to the middle of August, effectively, to put everything into place.
So therefore, what you're also going to see tonight when it comes to the dollar figures that she has actually all put up there already, we're going to talk about some tiers, some projects that we have within each of the tiers that we have within each of those areas. Those are not set. And that's what I want you to understand with y'all being here tonight, is that we're going to want some feedback from you to see what you're thinking about what we as a council have preliminarily put together and have initially put out there for you all to look at so that we can get some feedback and we can change those figures, those projects, to reflect exactly what the public wants.
Good point. Might be a good segue. Any further questions before we move into the next segment?
I have a
Presentation, go ahead.
I have a question. Shannon, you mentioned that there would be an annual audit. Who performs the audit and what is audited?
Councilmember James, thank you. The audit is performed by the city and it is put out on our website. It's required to be put out on our website annually. We would put it out annually. Additionally to that, the projects, as they would come up year for year, would be approved by council in our CIP, our capital improvement plan, because we'll have to show receipt of revenues and planned expenditures for those. So you're going to have 2 times that you see these come up throughout the year. And then we can demonstrate to the voters how much money has gone to exactly which projects. A couple things to note here is that we are not including in the referendum question any bonding. So we will wait for the funds to come in to get the projects underway. Additionally, the state law requires, and the way that our ordinance is written, we are required to let, as in to sign the contract, 70% of the Tier 1 projects before we begin letting or getting anything into place for Tier 2. So you want to put your most important projects towards the front, but then also talk about what's kind of shovel ready, quickly ready, as the money rolls in. And so that's kind of why we've got these 2 tiers here.
And let me stop just real quick there also, because you were talking about the bonding, and I want everybody to understand what that means. And that means is we can't borrow any money to do any of these projects. We're not going to borrow any money and then pay it back from the funds that the tax would raise. We have to wait until most of the money is there to do the projects, correct?
That is correct. You could fund it with your fund balances and then receive the revenues in. So if there's something you want to push a little bit ahead of that, that is an option the city would have, but there would be no debt and no risk to the voters for increasing millage to cover debt.
Catherine, do you have another question? Okay.
I had a question. So if the voters vote yes on this, after 8 years, this sunsets unless the city council at that time, again, votes to put it on a referendum for the citizens to vote again. Is that correct?
Councilmember Lane, it's a good thing to denote here. It just sunsets. Then the city council would have to create an entire new ballot question for consideration at a even year general election.
We'd have to do this all over again.
Correct.
Public hearing, conversation, first and second
Correct.
reading, put it on the ballot.
Correct. The one difference would be if you had a balance in the account. So let's say we raise more money than we anticipate. Hopefully that's the case. In this, then that's the city council at that time, when they put forth another question, would roll that revenue into the next round of projects.
Will the state also have to approve legislation for the city to do that, or is that already in the current legislation for us to do another ballot in 8 years?
I could let Attorney Childs speak to that, but I believe it's not super clear.
The state legislature has not provided for an automatic renewal of this at all. I think they will have to.
You can
pass-
talk into the microphone, Robbie.
I think
Because
they'll
of
have to pass
YouTube.
another act to authorize another round of these in the future. It's kind of like a test for local government to see how this works. And I think the reason is they just didn't have it renewed. They got it sunsetted, and so they may not ever do anything to renew it. They could, in order to renew it, they would have to enact some additional laws.
Shannon, we're going to go over in details what's tier 1 and tier 2 now.
That is correct.
Okay, great. Then I have a question about it after that.
Are you guys done with questions regarding what Shannon has already presented?
I have one more question. So this is over the course of 8 years, if it is voted on and approved. What are the safeguards with regards to spending this money, as far as, if people step away from positions, the positions change, the people change? What is in place with this that, and maybe this is also Attorney Childs, to make sure that the money continues going to where it is supposed to go, and safeguards that money and make sure it doesn't go places it shouldn't?
It's a fantastic question. I think it's really clear in the ballot question exactly what you have. And in your ordinance, the Exhibit A, which is what we were just on, the tiers, that is passed in your ordinance. So that stays there as collective memory. Your ballot question, as approved, stays there as your limits, your spending limits. And then, you have your annual review that you have to publish on your website. So I think there's really good collective memory built into this one.
Okay,
But great question.
The annual audit would kind of be the back end checks and balances for the city to make sure that the money is going where we say and planned for it to go.
Correct.
I'm assuming also that audit has to be submitted to the state also. It's not just something we do here, but will that have to be submitted to the state for their review also?
I believe it will be, because it's the Department of Revenue, and since they're providing the funds to us, I'm sure we're going to have to account for those to the Department of Revenue.
All right, Shannon, we're ready to move forward? Thank you.
Yes. So as Jay and intern Aubrey make their way up here, I wanted to just make a great note or give some accolades, because I'm really proud of what our intern has put together for us as an interactive map. After tonight, we hope to get that on the website as quickly as we can tomorrow, live and active, so that the citizens can play with it as well. So I'm going to let Jay take over and Aubrey run the computer at this point.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
So she stole the thunder a little bit there. I was going to praise Aubrey for putting this together.
Just do it again.
So I will. I like having people work with us that make us look better.
Yep.
And Aubrey has really done that in this case. So we're going to bring up the map instead of reading from the tiered list that you have in front of you, which is just words. We're going to bring up the map. And so this interactive map that will be up on the site tomorrow, you'll be able to, is it opening? Which is thinking about opening and does not look like we're connected to the internet.
Pivot.
Yeah, so there we go. So let me start talking about this as they're working on that. Where the recommendations for projects came from. Obviously, there's some staff input, but over time, the vision from the council, suggestions from council that have come about over time. Our Parks Master Plan with Stephen Whiteside that we've been working on fed into a lot of this. And a sidewalk inventory that we're doing with Alliance Engineering right now also feeds into that. So all those things feed in together. And Sherry, you had asked this question about how much you remembered a $30 million number. The $30 million number, when we put everything together, was we had $30 million worth of projects to consider. So all of a sudden we have this big surplus of projects, and we needed to break it down so that it equals the $15.8 million. And so that is where we started to pare it down, move it around, and develop the tiers. What we were looking at as we considered all these is vital projects to improve and enhance the community without incurring debt. And so then we had 5 different categories. So just to break everything apart from the tier thing, I'm going to go by the 5 different categories, and then I'll talk about which tier each of those projects is in as we go. It looks like they've had an internet connection and it's coming up right on time. But the other important factor in everything we talked about was going back to our core values. And the core values, as you know, are smart growth, art and culture, small town, feel, and connectivity. So those are the ones that drove the vitality and importance of each of these projects. And as we go in, she's going to go ahead and, so as you go in, there's just a disclaimer stating that project costs, project design, and everything can maneuver around. The projects will be accepted by the referendum. They will be, in fact, but they may not be exactly what you see tonight, because everything moves from conceptual design to final design. It ends up different, but we will be accomplishing the same projects. Does that make sense? Did I state that well? And so for each individual that goes in, you're going to acknowledge that and everything. So let's start with what we're considering public assembly and parks projects. And the two of them are in tier 1 right now, and they're in Gateway Park. And so if you go up to Gateway Park, you go over that. The first one will be pickleball. Pickleball was it's up there in the corner, right there, pickleball. And then you can enlarge. Underneath that, we'll have the dollar value associated with the pickleball enhancement. This one includes the addition of 3 pickleball courts and then the repainting of a pickleball court on top of the tennis court, not undoing the tennis court, but we have the tennis courts and pickleball. That was a big need expressed in the survey that we put out. Also, the other one's not at Gateway, so I misspoke. The other one is at Trailblazer, and it's the splash pad. As you all know, I was very apprehensive about putting a splash pad on the inventory or on the survey, but we put it on there, and it is one of the big needs that our community says, hey, this is something we need. This is not exactly what it would look like. This is representational of what it could be. The location of it would be right behind the playground. So in that image, if you looked at it, actually, if you click in the bottom and the satellite, you can pull up a satellite view of that. It would be right behind the existing playground. There would be the location of the splash pad, and that would be a tier 1 project. The other public assembly and recreational opportunities would go back to Gateway Park. There would be a feature playground. So up in this area here, there's going to be this feature playground. This is representational of what it would look like, an image of what it could look like. We're looking for something that would fit into our character. Again, just like the playground over in Trailblazer, that it's more natural, that it reaches a lot of age groups, and this is a big need right now. The current playground is getting to the point that's dated.
It's rough.
It's rough.
Yeah.
It has some safety issues. So we're really talking about safety here as well. One of the other items in Gateway Park that was high on the survey is the skate park. And so we had looked at that previously on another piece of property. And when y'all all move around in this online, it's going to work so much better for y'all. And so it is so, just so everybody knows in the room, it's so hard to move around in a computer when somebody's looking over your shoulder or expecting you to. So this is representational of what a skate park would look like. We're looking for something, again, that would fit in a wooded area, that wouldn't just be a concrete mass, but could have interactive play components for skate park, meet that need as well. The other two Tier 2 projects occur at Gateway and at Trailblazer, and they're enhancing the stadium seating. We have two stadiums in town, and right now, they're rough. And they need a little love and care so that we can take something that we currently have and make it so we can use it for events, but in both locations. They've been used in the past for events. This would enable them to be used again for public assembly in both of those areas. And so you can click on those areas and it'll show those. The next set of projects is sidewalks and trails. And ironically, when you go inside of here and you can wander around, there's a lot of sidewalks and trails. The main purpose of these, and I'll just speak in broad terms, because go ahead and click on one. What you're going to get is, like, this is North Main. It's going to give you a dollar value. But there's places in town, like North Main, that we need to make links to, that they're not there now, to connect us to the Swamp Rabbit and ultimately back to downtown. So if you're in Northcliffe, how do we get you back into downtown? So if you go back along Trailblazer, there's already, go down right there. So there, we need to make a little connection that gets you back over to Trailblazer, coming back past that. On the other side, there's a connection at Foothills down on the lower end. There's a lot of it that's there, but it's not completed to the neighborhood. In all these situations, if you pull back and take a look at that, they're all in blue on the linkages. You can go, it's taking older neighborhoods and how do we connect them to the Swamp Rabbit? What you'll also notice in there is right below, if you hit on the gray link, the gray sidewalk, right there, it'll show you a sidewalk that already exists. So that connection, we're just connecting to the connection that already exists to get you the Swamp Rabbit Trail.
Can I ask a quick question about
Oh,
that one?
absolutely.
So there's a piece of property there that's outside the city limits, so could we still put the sidewalk there?
That is a very good question. I believe that we could.
I
And-
hope
and the
so. I would
reason-
love that
The
so
reason
much.
Councilmember Chris,
we
I'll just
can-
jump in, and the state legislation does allow you to work outside your city limits with these funds.
Okay, but it serves the city, it's just that little piece that comes
Weirdo.
out.
That's
Okay.
right. And it would run within the right-of-way of the road, and therefore that's how you could work the
Is
project
this
out.
tier
That's
one or
the
tier two?
Fire
That,
station right there.
these sidewalks and trails are, that is a good question. Hold on a second. I have my notes right in front of me to answer that
I think
question.
tier two based on this right there. Okay.
The sidewalks and trails that are located within Tier 1 are the connections along Center Street. So if we go to Center Street,
Aubrey, I think if
that's
you
a
click on
vital
it,
connection.
it'll-
That gets us from the Swamp Rabbit Trail to all the work that's just been completed on Poinsett. There's also the Gateway Park sidewalk loop. So all the green lines you see within Gateway Park there that you could click on is the Gateway Park loop. And then inside of that also is a Trailblazer Park sidewalk connector that gets you from the upper level, which is the existing Trailblazer Park, to the lower level, which is the future Trailblazer Park and the things that occur there.
So are all these sidewalks that we're adding, is it under the umbrella of that connectivity, either to the trail or within the parks? It's not just necessarily like a random sidewalk. Like, for example, Tugs Mountain Road Extension has no sidewalks currently.
Right.
And, who knows if that would be added, or could something like that be added, or is it something that this needs to be inclusive of that connectivity umbrella, or, just kind of trying to get an idea of why certain sidewalks have been chosen versus others, and so on and so forth?
That's a great question. And as we looked through it, we were trying to take existing residential subdivisions that exist in the city and connect them specifically to the Swamp Rabbit Trail. So, so a connection along Tubbs Mountain Road wasn't really taken into consideration because it doesn't bend around to that. But along Williams Road up at top is a long one that connects two existing subdivisions from Tubbs Mountain Road back to the Swamp Rabbit Trail. So there's a lot that occurred that way. There's no imagery here because we know what a sidewalk looks like. It's either going to be concrete or asphalt. And so we've got the dollar values listed on them. The dollar values, what we associated with them, are doing them in concrete. They're also going to have, you know, planter strip and all the things that are required by our code into how they work.
I could pause you for 1 second
yes.
to go to Cheryl's point as well. It's not like these are the only sidewalks we're ever going to do for the next 8 years. This is specific to this referendum. Every year we have a list of sidewalks that we're working on. So if there is something else, we're like, okay, we can add that in our kind of normal. This is a little bit more of a icing on the cake, but we do this every year as we look at our sidewalk inventory.
The other side of that, to answer part of the question, is where we have the $30 million worth of projects, we're recognizing that along time, those projects need to occur. And so because they are, we're always going to be looking for grant funding and the fundings that we can find, some that are already in capital improvements, that we can take advantage and reach and do these. This is an opportunity that we see to say, here's an amount of money that we can immediately apply to and use for these vital projects, and takes some of the pressure off of seeking the grants and the capital improvement projects that are already in the budget. The critical roads, every single one of the projects in critical roads is listed in there. We'll start with Old Buncombe, which is this one. They're in red on these. This is a connection from Main Street down Old Buncombe. Thanks. I'm glad you can zoom in on it a little bit. What you can see is basically it's taking the road, putting some diagonal parking along Old Buncombe Road, creating that linkage between Main Street down to City Hall, all the way down to Edward Street, which provides much needed parking, but also a link of extending Main Street, so to speak, so that we have an opportunity to make it more walkable, and we have an opportunity to create that connectivity and for economic development moving forward. The other one, the next one is Little Texas Traffic Circle. We love it because it does help with traffic, but we want to try to bring it up to the standards of the traffic circle on the other side of the road, so that we don't have the little sticks all over the place sticking out of the ground, which basically says this was poorly designed, and we had no other way of keeping you from going where you didn't need to go without little sticks. So we want to take it so that we enhance it aesthetically, but we make it safer to maneuver through that situation as well. So along the edges, we will remove some of the pavement. There's a lot of pavement that's just all marked out and all that we make where they're narrow, there'll be concrete barriers to go across. When I say barrier, curb, not Jersey wall. And then the inset of the circle itself would have a concrete piece that allows for fire trucks, emergency vehicles to make the maneuver, trucks to make the maneuver, but it also differentiates from asphalt so that people stay on the asphalt making a typical maneuver. So we want to make the enhancements to make the councilwoman's
My pride and joy as it is.
traffic circle look better. Two of the other ones that are listed in critical roads, one is the gateway access. Currently, as you know, to get into Gateway Park, you go across somebody else's property. And so we think this is a great opportunity to make the access from Center Street across property that we own, across the top of the basketball court, and then it would connect into a little circle. And then if we can go on to the next project, which is the internal drive, we also think this is very important. The internal drive allows for us to limit the traffic that goes through the park. The more traffic you have goes through a park, the more unsafe it is for people crossing and recreating and doing that sort of thing. So what we want to do is reduce the amount of parking that is on that road, reduce the amount of traffic that's on that road, to open it primarily for emergency access and making sure things like the trolley could still get through there and things like that. And then this will go into parking on the backside and taking advantage and enhancing Center Street parking. We can go ahead and move on to parking since it segues that way. So the parking, we believe, is a vital need in the city. The more visitors we have, the more parking we need, so that we have people parking and then walking throughout the city. So Center Street parking is one of those that we would want to create the opportunity to increase the amount of parking, connect possibly into the library's parking, make it flow much better. But you create the parking for the park on the outside of the park, and then people go into the park. So likewise, let's go to the other side of the park. This is a Tier 1 project. That was a Tier 2 project. Tier 1 project, Henderson Street parking. This is on the other side of the park, so we have a parking field, so people park and then recreate, so that you don't have them interacting, have vehicles and pedestrians in the same place. So that is the only parking that is Tier 1. The rest of these are Tier 2. State Park Road is one. This is the old City Hall. We have the opportunity to set this up so that we could increase parking there. I think it's a great location that we own to increase the amount of parking that we have for people who are wanting to come to Main Street on a short walk there. We've already, North Poinsett, we believe this is the only piece of property we have control of. It's not control of, but we have the rights to use. This is over the Greenville Water property that allows us to get spaces in that location that will enhance all the effort we've done out on Poinsett. Old Buncombe parking has two things. This is parking, this is right across from the station. This would be 80 parking spaces that could fit in along Old Buncombe. You also see, to steal the thunder from my next one, the retention pond, sorry. Retention pond, I was right.
I cannot believe you messed that up as many times as you have
Can you
correctly
believe that? I said it right, then I said it wrong.
Yeah.
I had to correct myself.
And with the retention pond, it's not.
It's just sad. It is truly sad. And so we'll get to that in a second, but they create some parking in that location, and then the Trailblazer parking. This is a response to, we have a dire need for event parking at Trailblazer. We fill this up, the chief can tell you, fire can tell you, everybody's parking on every street, everywhere. I don't know that we could have enough parking up here. We believe that parking, and this is coming out of, would come out of the Parks Master Plan as well, that parking in that area is more vital than the one multi-purpose field we have in that location. It would also feed, when we do the stadium seating there, to allow it to be another event space and have the parking. And just to reach back historically, when Travelers Rest High School played football on that field, that's where everybody parked. So we're taking a page from history and feeding back into that. The last project, and this is a Tier 1 project, is the pond. And so this is a better image of the pond, although you're going to have to go to, there we go. My friend ChatGPT helped me. And so this would be a representational of how the pond would sit on the site with a 10-foot walk around it. There would be also a walk that would go back up. You can see it connecting into the backside of the current Trailblazer Park to make a connection from the top to the bottom. That would be part of the sidewalk that we talked about earlier. Then the parking is not shown on this, shown on the other image, and kind of brings that all together. So you start to begin to use the space here, but it also creates an amenity for the community. But it also solves stormwater issues, and that's the more vital need. So this is one of those great opportunities where we have to resolve stormwater issues and also make it meet a recreational need. So that is a list of the projects. That's a lot. It's actually $15.8 million worth, and I'm sure you're going to have some questions. So
Yeah, first of all, Aubrey, well done. This is really, really cool. I like the interactiveness and the budget pieces as well are very appealing in pictures, and so thank you. It's a lot to absorb. And I just want to note for those that are here visiting and listening online, we didn't have to in May bring council together and everybody say, Grant, what do you want? And Shanice, what do you want? The staff has been working on these projects, and so we had master planning that gave us a lot of this data. We've been talking about a skate park for a number of years, and so it was already sitting there. And so it's not like we had to go and, there's not a pet project on this for anyone. All of these are really important projects. Like Jay mentioned, $30 million worth that if we had the wish list, this is what we would ask for. And so it's really nice to have all of these available. And even the sidewalk, I think maybe last year in turn did a whole sidewalk inventory, and so we kind of had all the pieces ready to go. So let's open up for questions. I know we've been in here an hour and also have public hearing, but what do we have related to Tier 1? Oh, and to note, this is the first time we've heard some of these too, so we're absorbing as you guys are absorbing as well.
I just had something. I love the map. It's amazing. I would totally use it. I want to know, will there also be just a link on the website or just where the pictures can be there? Because I'm thinking about someone like my mom who would not be able to click through and see all the beautiful pictures.
Good point.
So I just want to make sure that we're able to see the pictures on another
Like a
way
collage of some kind.
a collage or a PowerPoint or a PDF so that people can kind of just flow through and look.
Great idea.
Hyperlink from the tiers, from the list of tiers, would you be able to click on that? And
I think it'd be nice on the website, there's a page like view projects here and they can just look at the projects.
Great idea. What other questions we have?
From the cost perspective, I think we're all familiar with things just increasing in price every year. So the budget that has been set for these different things, those buckets that we saw originally, right? How inclusive of those are, is that thought process of, making a parking lot? That is, I go back to that all the time. That's one of the most shocking things that I have experienced since being on city council is, wow, parking lots actually cost that much money. So just kind of adjusting for that, or how much was that included in the original estimates, and getting a feel for those numbers.
a good question. So what we do, and I've preached this for a lot of years, when we're at a conceptual stage, 20% contingency.
Okay.
So everything has a 20% contingency on that. As we tighten projects down, then we typically go to 10% or tighten it down a little bit further so that we get more exact. But we always keep a 20% contingency. Because, as you know, asphalt rides right along with petroleum and has gone up. And we were talking about it the other day. Once prices on materials go up, they seemingly don't come back down. So you get married to it whether you like it or not. So, but that's how we take care of it with a contingency.
I also want to note, I don't want to assume that everyone knows, but Gateway Park and the majority of Trailblazer Park was county-owned until the beginning of this year. And so that's part of our master park planning, where we as a city have taken on those parks. Gateway, for example, which for any natives here is part of our kind of heritage and legacy for being a Devil Dog and Travelers Rest, and now it's across from the high school. And so us being intentional with those that are now city assets, how do we want to bring them in, make them accessible, make sure the high schoolers have something cool to go hang out with over at Gateway. And so it's a little bit new for us.
And us taking over those assets came with $0 to
Right.
fund what was already on them.
I will say as well, because I think it's very important to note that these projects for the recreation are not the entirety of the recommendations from the master plan. They're just the ones that fit higher on the list of the survey needs when we went out to the county or to the city residents and got that information.
What other questions do we have regarding our tiers or projects?
so the tier 1 projects have to be 70% completed before we can start tier 2?
Let.
Let,
So
okay,
the contract has to be let.
okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that means for,
You get proposals for the work, and you sign a contract, that means the contract's let
Oh,
at that point.
okay.
So once, they have to be 70% contractual, so you were contractually obligated
Do
at
it.
that point. That's when the release is, not the completion of the project.
Use a financial term, encumbered.
Numbered.
and then I know like there's a lot of public input as well. My question is, how much was the splash pad voted on above the skate park? I'm just, and we have already skate park conceptual designs, and it's a little less expensive. We could do the skate park plus the stadium and switch those to tier 1 and put splash pad in tier 2. And maybe, but I don't want to do that if that's not what the public is so desiring. But I just feel like the skate park could, young to old, and fits a broader spectrum of users and brings people to Gateway Park, along with the fact that it's less maintenance.
Maybe bring us back some data for next time if we could get any from the
Yeah.
master park planning or anything like that.
Yeah. We can pull those exact, I know that splash pad tracked high.
Okay.
It did.
I don't want to move that if it's,
Yeah, it did track high. But
Okay.
there are a couple things that you mentioned there that I think are important as we look at these projects.
right, like the stadium seating, I think could be utilized like
Of
during.
all the
yeah.
projects, as we consider them, as y'all consider them, the other thing is maintenance and upkeep.
Splash pad's the one that bothers me for maintenance, just because every mayor I know hates their splash pad because it's always broke, and then
it is-
everybody complains about it, and
It
it's
is
water.
why
And
I was
yeah.
very apprehensive about putting it on the list. I just knew that it had to be. It's one of those popular things, but it comes with more of a maintenance and upkeep. And so it will have additional demand on your budget, unlike a skate park, unlike playground even. If you remove moving parts, the playground out here and the zip line moving part seems to be the one that gives us the most trouble, but each one of those comes with different levels of maintenance. When you talk about stadium seating, you're talking about the stadium seating that's been there for a while, and so when it's replaced, it's like putting a roof on it. It's going to have a 25-year lifespan. Yeah, there's some things you need to maintain over time, tightening bolts, things like that, but not as extensive as a splash pad. So as we take these projects forward, I do think the demand on our budget as we move forward and taking these on, I think that needs to be taken into consideration, as well as public demand. I mean, it all kind of fits together in the consideration.
And the public can still kind of give input on this until August 20th is when we vote on it for it to be completely set for the tiers. Is that correct?
Councilmember Lane, we will vote on this, you will vote on this August 10th. We have to have the
We're doing it
second
on the
reading
10th, okay.
completed and the ordinance ready to go to the Elections Commission.
On the
The 17th is the deadline, but to allow for nothing to hold it up, potentially the 14th, which is that Friday, is really our deadline.
So next Monday.
Correct.
Okay.
For the items on tier 2, what's the probability that we will actually get to do those items? Or is it just more of an order?
We believe that the estimations are conservative and that the funds should come in. So we believe that it's a relatively high possibility that you accomplish all of those projects. Our intention was to put forth a very conservative estimate, as we do with budgeting, so that people felt like they could count on the projects happening, as opposed to best case scenario and hopes and dreams out there. As Attorney Childs alluded to, we don't know whether that you'll be allowed to submit a second round of referendums, but we wanted to make sure we got the first round correct. If there were to be a second one, we would want the public trust on that.
So regardless, the splash pad and the skate park should be able to get funded if this was passed.
That is our estimation, yes.
And would it also be safe to say that in doing the estimates that have been done from both of you and on the staff level, that even though these projects are not without any continued operating cost figures, there are going to be some, but for the most part that you have tried to look at projects that do not have major continuing costs associated with operational side of things.
Councilmember Baumgartner, that's exactly what we've tried to do, is a real clear balance of what kind of deferred maintenance is required of this, so as not to push the operations budget. Also, what can we actually accomplish in-house, and take care of. I think another consideration is what's ready to go. You do have a skate park plan. It's not perfect for that site. It wasn't done exactly for that site, but you have a pretty good backbone of a skate park plan. We haven't started that with a splash pad. Those are two instances, but those kind of came into consideration as we thought through. There's the demand and the desire in the community. There's the operations cost. There's the implementation of the construction, and there's the design component. So kind of all of those feed into it. We're not married to this list in order or in projects, but this is what going through council's published goals and retreat code budget goals and long range plans goals. We kind of try to find some ratio of all those factors.
And I just wanted the public to understand that we're looking at that whole picture. It's not just the production of this and the actual implementation of it, but that splash pad was just using that, we might be able to get the thing built, but the problem is that the money to continue with the operation of that, to keep it functional, is not going to come out of this 1% that we're talking about. That comes out of your tax dollars that we as a council have to figure out how to use out of our operational budget. So this is a large work. This whole thing of us bringing this to you it's really an opportunity to take the pressure off of you all, the property owners, to fund projects like this to enhance and improve the community and pass 61% of this on to people that are coming in, the visitors that are coming into the city from outside the city. 61%. And they're going to continue to come. They're coming now, they're going to continue to come, and if we can tap into our thinking was in putting this question on the ballot, is this gives you all the opportunity to see that maybe we can pass some of this on to others, and those others are going to actually help us with property tax for each one of us that lives inside the city.
Thank you, Grant. Jay, are you done with your presentation or anything?
am.
Okay, great,
I
great.
have
Well,
Sit here if
I
there's
know
any
we're
other
great job. I know we're about an hour and
I have a
15 minutes in.
question.
Sure. Does anyone on council have any burning questions
Yeah,
before
how
public hearing?
long would it take us to do all of these projects without this referendum?
Councilmember Byers, I couldn't imagine you could tackle these projects without this referendum. To be honest, it will take many, many years of capital improvement projects. And to follow up on Councilmember Baumgartner's question, a final component of consideration is the majority of what you see going into the recreation components are the backbones to the master plans. So putting in the roads and the sidewalk connections that take a long time to age. So, you're looking at a 20-year before you have major, deferred maintenance costs on those.
Can we just get how much the maintenance costs would get on the splash pad for Monday's meeting?
And insurance, if there's an estimate.
I believe we could look into that. I imagine it would come down to your design and size and things of that nature.
There's a lot that would come down as an input to that. And I would think from an insurance standpoint, not being an insurance agent or anything, but we have a great deal of liability already across all parks. I don't know that it's a significant.
I don't know. We'd have to look into that.
Just let us know if Lisa and I are going to be called to pump water over at the splash pad when it breaks down and we got to drive over there and make sure the kids can play.
If y'all are willing.
I mean, hey,
Well, that's it.
we do what we got to do.
You know those old railroad cars?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, Cheryl.
Teach us all how to do it, and then it'll take
All right, anybody on council have anything for Jay or Shannon before we move into public hearing? Great, thank you so much, thank you. Aubrey, did you want to say anything out loud to council?
I'm very used to having a mouse whenever I use this website, and
You did
so
great.
that was a challenge.
Okay.
But that's all.
Awesome job, Aubrey.
Nailed it, nailed it. Thank you so much.
You did a great
Great.
job. Thank you. for
All right,
that.
we will move into the public hearing portion of this. Thank you all for being patient. I know that was a lot of information. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of receiving comment on the ordinance that you heard tonight for the Travelers Rest Homeowners Tax Relief and Critical Project Sales Tax Referendum. We ask that you stay to that subject. If you want to complain about traffic or weather, grab one of us after the meeting, but for this purposes, please stay on subject. Each person signed up for public hearing, you'll have 3 minutes. I have a phone and a little alarm will go off, and so I don't want you to think we're being rude, but when your alarm goes off, your time is up. As a reminder, this is not a back and forth with council. It's an opportunity for you to share and state your thoughts on record for us. As you know, we have August the 10th, and so we'll take that information, discuss, follow up with staff, and we'll make that decision next week on how we finalize the project list and the referendum question. So we will first hear from residents signed up to speak on this matter, and then we'll hear from non-resident stakeholders. All right, first up, we have Miss Christina. Oh, I'm never going to be able to pronounce your last name properly. Okay, great. Okay, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate, yeah, you got our number, just call us. Miss Kathy McAfee, please come forward.
You can
Oh,
come to the
You have to
mic.
come up. Yeah, move it down. Jay's a giant, so you have to take that
It's my first
spot.
time attending a
Yeah.
meeting. I love to see
Thank you
Grant
for
in action. He's
coming.
my neighbor, and Catherine, and thank you for your leadership.
you.
Super exciting plans, and I came in with my cackles up. But thank you for providing really good information, and I yield the rest of my time.
Okay, great, thank you. I can't imagine you having cackles, Kathy, but we'll hear you for that one. All right. Oh, sorry. Well, we're not getting into relationship matters here. All right, Mr. Kerry Morgan, come on forward. Thanks for coming.
I had no intention of speaking here today, but I feel like someone needs to be the voice of reason for our residents and for our businesses here. Because you talk about visitors paying, it's not just the visitors, it's the residents that spend money eating out here and going to the other businesses and spending money in Travelers Rest. I understand that we need some of these things, and I'm all about helping our infrastructure. I've been saying that since we put in the apartments, which I think were a horrible idea. And we were told as citizens we would have businesses in there and restaurants and all kinds of stuff in those apartments, and there was nothing for us there. It's done nothing but add to the growth rate of traffic, crime, parking, accidents, litter. And speaking of traffic, I was run over on my motorcycle a couple years ago, which I think was a direct result of overdevelopment, which is what is causing the strain on our infrastructure. And when I say overdevelopment, I mean the rape and pillage of Travelers Rest. I think with prices and the economy the way it is and everything the way it is, it's crazy that you guys are talking about raising taxes. I just wonder, where's all the tax money going from all this overdevelopment now? Where's all the money from Pinestone going? What developments has that got us? We get Pinestone, we get a trash tax. We annex Furman in, we quit picking up recycling on the road. We got a new apartments going in, and now we need more sidewalks. And we need more parking, we need all this stuff, but I think that some of these overdevelopments, maybe we put a bigger tax on growth, maybe a growth tax. You want to bring in 1,000 new residents, maybe we need to account for what problems that's going to cause. And what about the businesses? Some of them are barely making it here, and you're talking about that's going to affect them too. You're raising their prices on everything they're selling. And not just them, but what about the farmers markets? They have to pay sales tax too. And you're talking about artists and people that are struggling to make ends meet as it is. I've got nothing else to say.
Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate it. All right, next we have Mark Newcomer. Come on. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, Betsy Beach. Miss Betsy Beach, give me just a second. Hello?
is not my strong point, so please let me know if you can't hear me.
Welcome, welcome.
There's a very good chance I'm at the wrong meeting.
Okay.
I thought I was coming to address the Greenville County Council on the issue of the 1% increase.
Okay, yeah, you've got the City of Travelers Rest, but we welcome you here. Would you like to talk about what you heard tonight, or?
Can I a couple of things that,
Sure.
it sounds to me like there's more flexibility in that 1% than what I understood. I thought it was kind of going to be simply roads and that kind of thing, and I'm seeing parks and all of that. So there is flexibility in how you would spend that 1%?
Yes, yeah. Sorry, this isn't a question and answer, but if there's any
Okay.
feedback, why don't you hang out afterwards and one of our council members can chat with you?
I think so.
Yeah.
Can you tell me if there is a time when I can address the county council on the issue of the 1%?
Sure, I don't know a lot about county business, but we'll try to find out for you if you'd like. Yeah, just hang
Thank you
around,
s-
Mrs. Beach.
thank you
Yeah,
so much.
we're glad you accidentally arrived here. We will take it. All right, is it Scott Odell? Sorry if I messed that up. 333 Barnes? Okay, great, thank you. All right, Marla Fan, or it might be Fane. Hello, welcome. All right, when you're ready.
Okay, I didn't realize we couldn't ask questions, so I'm
You can
just-
ask questions, just don't expect a response. We might chat afterwards,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I would encourage you to check okay, on the notification you sent out today, there was a link for all the material that was presented tonight. And in the part of where the money is going, the tier 1s and the tier 2s, seems to be different from what was on the map, the interactive map, because it just seems like it's different. So I would urge you to check that before you post it for everybody else and know what you're voting on next week. And then secondly, I would also hope, and if it hasn't been done, that a traffic study be conducted on the Gateway Park entrance off of Center Street, because traffic on that road is already bad, and having to slow down for cars coming in and out will be problematic. And that's it.
Great, thank you very much, appreciate it. Good note. All right, Maya Arter. Hold on one second, let me get your minutes together. All right, sorry if I butchered your last name. You can fix me.
That's
Okay,
right.
all
It's
right.
Maya, thank you. I just wanted to say quickly, I really appreciate, I know this was a very short timeline to put this all together, but I think you all did a really thoughtful job on staff and on council, and I really appreciate all the input that went into creating that project list and putting together a really thoughtful proposal to put on the ballot. So just want to thank you for your leadership.
Great, thank you so much. All right. No, just wait till afterward. Yeah. Hold on. I'll come get you. Don't worry. I won't forget about you. All right, Grant, come on up. Hold on one second. Let me fix my clock. Okay.
So first of all, I want to say I'm very overwhelmed, but overwhelmed in a good way. Because there's like an insane amount of projects up there. And I've been coming to city council meetings for the last maybe 9 months, a year. And y'all have made like very steady, consistent progress. And there's like new crosswalks being put in and trail extensions, the Gold Line, the statue, new parks. But this feels like an avalanche of new projects. So I am overwhelmed in a great way because of that. I think this seems like kind of a win-win situation. I'm a homeowner. I would love a discount on my property taxes, first of all. It's interesting that this is a tax relief situation that also gives us a lot of opportunity. It seems like a win-win. So I appreciate y'all putting this together. I also appreciate all the progress we're making currently. I think this will just kind of accelerate that. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Grant. I appreciate that. All right, that is the last of our public hearing. I want to, again, just say kind of wrap up information soaking up for you all, council. You see everyone on council here. We're available for questions. If you just want to reach out to us, call us, email us, and let us know if there's anything that is kind of, maybe you're not a public speaker, like, I don't want to say anything, but just make sure you reach out to us. And again, we will meet on this Monday for our second reading. Again, with no other speakers, the public hearing for ordinance for the Travelers Rest Homeowners Tax Relief and Critical Projects Sales Tax referendum is closed. And again, we very much appreciate all of you coming out here. We know you could have been doing lots of other things on your Thursday night, so thanks for spending time with us. And with that, we will adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Right. Just like a light bulb, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. How do we do it? But like, you want it to be bigger.
She wants to know how you did.
Oh, no, I talked to her.
Oh, you did? Oh, how did we do? You've seen it. Yeah. Especially when you're
We don't have districts or wards. We represent everyone, so you can talk to any and all of us.
Okay, all right, I'm just asking because I don't.
And if you go to the website, our emails are on there. You can email one of us or all of us, and reach out to us that way.
What brought you to Travelers Rest?
I've actually lived right where I lived in Somerville. We moved up from Somerville because it was getting to be an absolute zoo.
Okay.
I've been there. I was living in Somerville, North Charleston for 36 years. Military brought me there. I ended up staying there. I was the deputy sheriff for Charleston County for a while. Got a job, civil service, at Spaywater. Now